I want to ask you all to join me in welcoming the next chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs, David Solomon.
We're somewhere late, in this growth cycle.
Yeah.
Could run for a while, but at the same point, people, I think, are cognizant of the fact that asset prices have been going up. There's a shift in monetary policy going on around the world, and that could lead, to some changes or some shifts that people want to be cautious about. We've had a cycle that's run for a long time, and the environment is changing, maybe normalizing. The cycle could run for a number of years, from here. Growth feels pretty correlated at the moment. But there's certainly things that can disrupt it in some way, shape, or form. And so, I think people need to be nimble. And look, at the moment, the sentiment is that this process of rate change is going to be relatively gradual and relatively transparent. If you go back and look at other tightening cycles, it generally doesn't play out that way. At some point in time, the sentiment shifts, and the change in markets reprice more abruptly than people expect. That your modeling and your work is basically predicting a slowdown in growth in 2019. And so talk a little bit, just at a high level to set the stage, what do you see that's leading to that slowdown in growth?
Yeah, we are set for a period of somewhat slower growth. The global economy has been growing close to 4% the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. We think it's more like 3.5% in 2019, 2020. And I think the most important reason for that is that the US economy is at this point probably at or slightly beyond full employment. I think, as you get into late 2019, 2020, the risk of recession does go up because on the demand side, we're losing the fiscal boost. And then in terms of the amount of slack out there, I think we'll probably be more clearly beyond full employment. We have the unemployment rate at 3.25% by the end of 2019, and inflation somewhat above the target.
Slight upgrades to growth for 2018 and 2019, quite a big drop-off after that. Does that sound sensible to you?
It does. I think after that, it's a natural forecast to come back down to approximately a trend growth rate. And in fact, there's a little bit of a hint of below trend growth if you look at the path for the unemployment rate.
An incredible brain of yours that's created this phenomenal track record that is really the best in history. 30 years performance, managing outside money, never had a down year. 120 quarters, only 5 were down. 30% compounded over 30 years.
We developed yet another bubble, and we're now sort of in the position, potentially, and I want to say potentially, where we were in early '07.
When you hit zero interest rates, you have a different type of debt crisis. You have more likely to have a depression. So I think the period that we're in is very similar to the 1935-1940 period. I think we're 9 years into the cycle, and the cycles are the cycles, and the balance of payments and supply, demand, and credit is what it is. And so I'm saying that we're probably in the 7th inning of this game.
I think if you look 2 to 3 years out, there's obviously, I think, things to worry about in terms of whether this economy will be overheating at that point and whether the Fed will indeed need to go to a little bit more restrictive policy.